Hey, welcome aboard for this Virtual Collage Jam for Simcoe Day in Ontario anyway, August 3rd, and our last Virtual Collage Jam, sad to say, until the fall. But there's still lots of jamming to do today, so looking forward to it. Hope you're doing well. We've just had some downpours here in Brampton, but it seems to have abated for the moment. Maybe you're joining me from cottage country, or if you're joining me from the States, I presume it's not a holiday in the States today, is it? And I think Simcoe Day is only Ontario, although I'm not positive, in Canada. So it's the August long weekend is what it's referred to here usually. People, if you ask them when Simcoe Day is, they might or might not know. So our prompt today is, what is it? It's one man's trash, or one person's trash, I like to say. So one person's trash is another person's treasure. And so that could go so many different ways. And that's why I thought it might make a good prompt. So much of what an artist does is show the potential in things you don't expect there to be potential in. And I think collage is actually really strong that way, right? The average person might be looking around and say, oh, what is this? It's just garbage, right? All these different colored paper scraps or whatever. It's like, oh, just get it, throw it in the recycling. And the artist will go, wait, no, don't do that. I don't want to lose that. That is something I could use. So, the reason I came, hey, Annie, welcome aboard. Yeah, drizzling out. And and Kim actually isn't joining us today. She's got an Instagram live for Arts Etobicoke tomorrow. And so she's madly working on some class prep and also getting her studio ready. Hey, Francois, how are you? Francoise. I always forget the was at the end there. Niçoise, Francoise. Come on, Cal, get it together. So, before we get into the prompt itself, I just want to say a few things. A little bit of housekeeping while I remember. First of all, I mentioned that this is, working on it. Francois, definitely. See, I did it again. As soon as my brain gets on something else. Francois. Hello, Ricky. Welcome aboard. How are things in Philadelphia? It's cold and rainy here. So, which is actually, it's what the lawn and the gardens need. So, hey, Joy, welcome back. Nice to see you. I just want to mention a few things. So I mentioned earlier, probably before you guys managed to join the stream, hey, Linda, that this is the last Collage Jam for the summer, and then we'll be picking up again in the fall. And we'll be doing it, I mentioned this before, but I'll mention it again. Kim and I are going to alternate between her virtual studio party and my virtual collage jam. We're going to move it to Saturdays so that if you're working, you can do it and still have the video options so that you can catch up with it later. Hot and humid with tropical storms. Hey, Mira. And that sounds... Right. I hope that tropical storm isn't too much, Ricky. Sorry, I'm doing that walking and chewing gum thing. So starting on Saturday, September 19th at 2 p.m., it will be Kim's virtual studio party, and then the week after that will be my first virtual collage jam, which will be Saturday, September 26th, also at 2 p.m. and we'll just flip-flop, so you'll always have one or the other of us to keep you company as you make whatever you're making. So hopefully collage at least some of the time. Not that I'm biased. And then I'm just going to mention hey, Gerda, and hi, Lillian. Nice to have you joining us from Winnipeg. And hey, Gerda. Yeah, I don't know what it is with getting the live. When I'm doing it and Kim's doing hers, I have to like repeatedly refresh, and it's not until a few minutes after the stream actually starts that I actually see it and can join it. So yeah. Hey, Philippa, welcome aboard. Yeah, nice of you to say hi. Even if you can't chat, that's no worries. That's great. Thank you for saying hi so that I know you're aboard. Some of you may not have heard me mention earlier that Kim won't be joining us today. I'm sorry. I know I always enjoy having her aboard, but she's doing an Instagram live for Arts Etobicoke, where like a virtual studio visit. And so she's madly getting her studio ready and doing some other prep for some classes and so on. Yeah, I agree, Mira. It's the way we're gonna keep it sustainable, so that we're not too exhausted. But we love doing this, right? So we want to keep doing it, and so that way you've always got the same time. You've got once a week rather than twice, but it's very regular, and it'll just be Kim or me, right? And we'll just flip flop like. One or the other of us will be the lead and the other will be the accessory, as it were. So I just wanted to make mention of a couple of some of the courses that I'll be teaching in the fall. I haven't absolutely nailed down what I'm teaching on my own hook, but I can tell you that through Nielsen Park Creative Center, nielsenparkcreativecenter.com, on Wednesday morning, starting October 7th, I will be teaching a course called Art of the Great Indoors. Given the fact that probably we're going to have more COVID to deal with rather than less, especially come fall. Another course via Zoom and about seeing the artistic potential in your home. And I'll have lots of interesting challenges that help you see your home surroundings differently. With Visual Arts Mississauga, or VAM, I'll be teaching Monday mornings, also on Zoom. And the schedule isn't absolutely nailed down yet, but these are the courses I'm teaching. I'm teaching two-week courses, one on color contrasts and one on color harmonies. So they're very quick hit, like one morning and then another morning. So 6 hours total. Just either a refresher or a way to sort of bone up on how to use color contrasts and how to use color harmonies. And we'll be using paint, but it's applicable to everything. And then the remainder of the term will be a 6-week course exploring abstraction, which I have done before with them. Some of you guys, Francoise has joined me for it, and I think Annie, you joined me for that as well. So and then it probably on my own hook, I'll be extending collage explorations, and that'll probably be Thursday afternoons, as it has been. If you would like to be on my email lists, I send out emails to people on my list to let them know about all the courses I'm teaching, any exhibiting opportunities, which of course aren't very many, if any, this year, but any other news and so on. And that I don't bombard your inbox, so there's not a ton of information coming your way all the time. It's just maybe once at the beginning of each term and then the occasional other things. So just email me if you're interested and I'll put you on the list. So let me just see who we got here. Hey, Ruth, how are you? Welcome aboard. Ruthless Ruth has joined us. That's great. And Lillian, where was what again? So yes. So what time? So okay. So let's just go over that. Yeah, and yes, it is all virtual. Kim and I have decided that we are not going to do any in-person teaching at least until the end of 2020, and then we're going to reassess at that point and see where we're at. Just because, you know, her health is a bit dodgy, so we don't want to be taking any risks. I know some places have opened up again. Nielsen Park, where we teach, is teaching. They have in-person kids classes. VAM, Visual Arts Mississauga, decided not to, but you know, it's a tricky thing. So, okay, so timing. So, Nielsen Park, Art of the Great Indoors, Wednesday mornings, and I think it's 9:30 to 12:30, starting October 7th. Visual Arts Mississauga will either be 9 or 9:30. I think it's probably 9:30 to 12:30 again, so another 3-hour. And the dates aren't absolutely set yet, but it will be Monday mornings. And my collage explorations, in all likelihood, the one that I do myself, which I haven't quite nailed down, in all likelihood, it will be Thursday afternoons, starting at 2 to 4:30, the way it has been. Oh no, it's been in the mornings. Man, I can't be trusted. 10 till 12:30. Sorry. All right. Yes, that is all virtual. Hello, Kathleen. How are you? Wenice to have you joining us. I have been meaning to mention that my mother's maiden name is Robbins, Kathleen. So I wonder if we're related in some way. Yes, Annie, but definitely better to be safe. It's just, why risk it, right? So, all right. I think that's all the blah, 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 blah stuff and now we can get on with collaging. So I have something in the printer that I have to show you. So the reason I came up with this prompt, I mean, as I mentioned earlier, all artists treasure unusual things, right? Other people think, what's that? Why are you saving that, right? Husbands, right? Usually. not all husbands, or spouses, right? They're just like, why can't we throw this out? No, that's important. I'm going to make art out of that, right? So I posted on Instagram this picture in the fall, and it's a photograph of, I had been doing some letters, 4-inch square paintings using letter forms and using my airbrush. So they had to spray paint on them, and these were the stencils I was using. And then my little post-it notes about what I should do. Maybe I'll make this a complimentary play or whatever. So I posted that, and another artist friend and instructor at Nielsen Park in VAM, some of you no doubt know her, Helen Mccusker, commented, "It kind of looks like my desk right now, a pile of cut paper scraps. Mine are from pop-ups. We should do a trade." And so when I read that, I thought, okay, I'm going back into the garbage where I had taken my photograph of those stencils, and then I had pitched them. So I went back into the garbage and dug them out and put them in a bag for her and took them to Nielsen. And then she brought me a bag of her scraps. So I have this bag of Helen Mccusker paper pop-up scraps. And I thought, it's been sitting in my studio since the fall. So I thought I'd dig it out and see what I could make. And of course, you don't have to have someone else's scraps to do this prompt. I just thought, this is going to be a great opportunity to do that. Yeah, thanks, Joy. It's I'll stand up so you can see the full design a little better. We got it at the National Gallery, but I'm a big fan of, now I'm not absolutely sure whether it's Haida or you would probably know better than I, but I do love those graphic shapes of the West Coast tribes for sure. Oh, interesting. Okay, I think my Robbins side has been in Ontario for a long time, but probably they're related at some point. Kathleen, that's fun. All right, so I'm gonna dump it out. I purposely didn't go rummaging through it to pre-plan. I wanted to be just fresh and respond to it. I'm gonna see if I can get this oriented a little bit down to my working area. I'm not sure I can. Maybe I can go back a little bit further. Okay, I think I might be able to. Yeah, okay. So let me know in the comments what other person's trash you're going to use as your collaging treasure, and or did you just like save some scraps from last week, or did you go rummaging? Did you have a drawer where you put stuff that you didn't know what to use? Let me know what you're thinking, and I'm gonna get started. Kind of tempted to just dump it all out. I might regret it. So one thing that makes it, anytime you're working with someone else's stuff, they sort of think, oh yeah, that's what I do, right? But when we see it, it's fresh to us, right? So Helen does a lot of painted papers that she then cuts out afterwards. And my goodness, there's so much great stuff in here. I'm just going to grab a few examples so that you can see. Yeah, I don't know where to stop. They're pretty great. I'll bring them on a white background so you can see them. So some are like, look at that. Like, isn't that's a finished piece in and of itself, right? It's got all these beautiful colors in it. I'll bring it a little closer so you can see. There, get it a little more light on it. There's one that, oh, this is great. It's got like purples, simpler purples on one side, and these lovely fresh sort of orange, yellow greens on the other side. Look at this shape. This is like crazy. I love this. And it's got color on both sides. So I'll have to choose which side I want to use. Ditto this one. I mean, they're all got paint on both sides, which makes sense because what she's doing is making pop-ups, so it needs to have color on both sides. So, and then this one, if Kim saw this, she'd be like, I'll have that. It's got all these dendrites or dendritic patterns. And that's what happens when you have paint and you squish it between two surfaces and then you pull it apart and it goes like that, and it makes those interesting, very, like, actually remarkably fine branching patterns. And those are called dendrites. Kim's been playing with dendrites in some of her work. And then here's just like a piece of orange that's got some graffito with a hard tool through the wet paint, which makes some nice crisscross lines. Ooh, I've scored the mother load. Hey, Jane. My trash and I save almost every will cut out. Yeah, exactly. Me too. I was doing a collage earlier, and I didn't want to throw the bits out because they looked interesting. So I made myself a little note to make a 5-minute collage of these. So at some point I'll just use what's in there, right? And I'll just set a timer and do a 5-minute collage, and it's the challenge of working with what would have gone out the door otherwise. Yeah, those shapes and colors are great, aren't they, Joy? Yeah, and they are treasures, Annie, for sure. Yeah, so her name is Helen Mccusker, and it's MC and then capital Cusker. She has more of a blog than a website, but you can definitely find some of her work. It's Eagle Studios or something like that. But if you Google her name, Helen Mccusker, I think there's an actress who has the same name, and it's not her, obviously. It's Helen. So yeah, there. Thanks, Gerda. Gerda's typed it in so you can see how it's written. Thanks, Gerda. Annie says she's going to use some of her Chinese red envelopes. Ooh, they can't bring to toss out. Absolutely. And paint chips. What great options. Yeah. Are there red Chinese envelopes from a particular Like, are they associated with a particular holiday? I should know this because I'm married to a Chinese woman, but at least half Chinese. But I'm not. It's not coming to mind. So yeah, thanks, Gerda. I think I might. Should I like organize them a little bit by color? That might be interesting. Might be more work than it's worth. I don't know. I think it might be worth it just a quick pre-sort, not a major one, just so that I can navigate a little bit what I'm looking at. Just sort of quickly throw them into just a few, nothing too crazy. Just sort of grayish one, those neutrals. Put neutrals there, orangey ones here. Blue, green. Oh, that's got all kinds of things though. And they're two sides. So which side do I file it by? Okay, all right. So maybe it's a hopeless case. I will just go by finding some interesting things and seeing where they go. I think as usual, I'm going to stick, since I need something to sort of rein in my possibilities, at least somewhat, I'll start with my typical 6-inch square and maybe cut 2 or 3 out of plain colored paper, and then go from there. It's happening. The collage bomb has gone off. I have to find my tools under everything. There they are. It takes about, I don't know, 3 minutes, and then I can't find my way. So Gerda, is Slade joining us today? You guys often join us together, right? Which is lovely. And are you guys both collaging? Adele has bags full of ephemera. Oh, and I love like tickets and little bits of maps and brochures and like travel. Remember travel? Travel ephemera. That's pretty great. I don't know whether that's what you mean. From Lucky Money. Okay, I thought it was Chinese New Year, but then I wasn't I didn't want to commit to it, Annie. So yes, okay, that's great. Yeah. And Joy's using leftovers like for dinner. Yeah, exactly. It taps into a similar sort of creativity, doesn't it? It's like, what delicious thing can I make with these unsuspecting sort of, those are weird, but I bet you with some creativity, I can come up with something that's better than you think, right? That's... Hey, Slade, you're in the attic. Just being a spectator. Fair enough. Nothing wrong with spectating. Does your cat sort of only ask for attention when you're busy with something else? And then if you're like, okay, I could pat you all during the collage jam, they're like, no, forget it. I'm going over here and going to ignore you. my glue sheet out. I have a couple of collage bombs over there. I've got a black and white one because I've been trying to do a value study that I had set my collage explorations class doing, and I thought I'll do it too. And I'm like, wow, this is harder than I thought. But nothing worth doing is too easy. Otherwise, it doesn't challenge us, right? But I'm definitely having a challenge with my black and white collage. And I love working with black and white. I like the simplicity and the starkness of it. And by black and white, I mean grayscale as well. So full range of values, but I'm doing a black and white version of a Claude Monet piece from London with the Thames and a bridge and Big Ben and I guess the Parliament buildings. And yeah, it's more challenging than I hoped, than I thought. I'm definitely enjoying the challenge, but yes. Well, hey, Gerda, maybe you could collage some of those papers. Probably not, right? They're probably too important. But wouldn't that be fun to just like, all right, I'm going to collage all these bills and important documents and make something fun out of them instead of like my huge long to-do list. I know, but it's a fun thought to entertain anyway. Francois says, stole your idea and decoded to use my 8-year-old grandson's scribbles. Oh, yeah. That's great. I've seen a few artists use kids' drawings or scribbles, and they actually make it really beautiful because there's that unexpected. Anytime you can sort of use something else that someone has pitched or not seen as being artistic in any way, or just like, you know, kids, they're on to the next thing, right? Holly Chastain is a U.S. illustrator who does some beautiful collages and often uses like old book covers or library books that kids have written in, or kids' homework or little drawings in among her collages. And Randall Plowman, the guy who did the collage workbook and master's collage, also will incorporate kids' drawings into his collages. Yeah, yes, I will. I will post it, Annie. It's not ready for prime time yet because I'm still struggling with it. But I will not be defeated. I am determined to make it work at least reasonably. So I will definitely post it. All right. Nice blue ground. So maybe play with some of Helen's blue pieces. Huh. So you can just sort of see the fact that was like a cutout from some sort of pop-up type thing. It's got tabs and fascinating shapes, doesn't it? And orange and blue. It's also interesting because her work is it's designed to be three-dimensional, and it's not that I never work in three dimensions, but I am very much a two-dimensional design-like artist thinker. So I am looking at pieces that have been designed to be three-dimensional, and I am looking at them for their two-dimensional characteristics or potential, which is kind of fun. But yeah, they all have, a lot of them have these like little things that were obviously like flap areas to be like glued on to something, or yeah, it's fascinating. And little notches where it would fit into something like that, you know. Of course, I can't make it fit in, but like a notch cut in it already. This one's got some iridescent color on it, which may or may not come across. There, you can see how it behaves in the shifting light. Oh, some of these pieces are so yummy. I mean, that's a painting already. It's done. I will attempt to do that, Linda. I've tried to get it so that you can see it a little. Okay, yes, I can see that you can see this area, but not what I'm actually working on. Sorry about that. I will adjust. Yes. My apologies, Linda, and everyone else too. Still not great, but at least you can at least get some idea now. Yeah, sorry about that. What I should do is maybe move my cutting mat closer so that I'll work over here. Except I tend to cut on the other side, so maybe that doesn't work. Okay. What was I thinking? I wasn't thinking. Right. That just has to have been designed to be a piece of cheese, don't you think? I'm sort of seeking out some sort of blue-green pieces that are reasonably dark to go on this blue background so that they're low contrast. And then I'm thinking I'll build some higher contrast stuff in front of it. So Helen seems to have made quite a few of these sort of organic-y shapes with sort of the dendritic patterns on them. So I'm just seeing where those might lead on their own. First, as a sort of quieter ground onto which to do some more active stuff. It's kind of given me a aquatic kind of feeling, which is kind of fun. And I'm not sure whether they should all... I had them all politely staying within the square. And maybe that's not such a good idea. They may stay within the square, but I might trim them off at an edge so that they are a little more animated. That's definitely a good idea, I'm sure. That's kind of fun. This one feels like it should be more foreground. And then maybe darker further back so it sort of recedes a bit more. Yeah, that makes sense, at least some sense. So maybe if that goes up, yeah, maybe up is better in that case. That's fun. Okay. I should just see if there are any more of those. Natalie scrounging around. Yeah, there's another little bit like that. That's good. Another thing that's fun about this is they're colors I would not necessarily think to use, and they're also way more painterly and complex than I would generally use, which is beautiful. Like, it takes some time to develop those those painted papers, but they're beautiful. They're really gorgeous. All right, that sort of should be more. That's good. Sometimes the more you think, the more trouble you get into. I may have to just sort of dial it back a little bit. That's kind of fun. All right, let's go with something more or less like that. Yes, Joy, absolutely. And Linda, yes, thank you. I'm sorry that I had it set up the wrong way first time around, but we're good now. It's the fact that her papers are painted on both sides reminds me of something that I often happens when I'm working with images from magazines, and that is, you think, okay, yeah, that's what I'm using, and then you flip it over and you go, oh, you see something else on the other side, and you just have to double check that you don't want to just use the unexpected flip side instead. In this case, I don't, but I was like, oh, right, it has something else on the back. I'd forgotten. Something I love about using a glue stick, and it's not limited to glue sticks. It's true of most glues, but the fact that you put the glue on it and then you put your piece down and you have a little bit of wiggle room in terms of just positioning it. It depends how thin the paper is, right? Her papers are fairly thick, so they, giving them a little push or just like fine tuning their position doesn't scrunch them up, which is kind of nice. Some of the thin magazine papers definitely scrunch up when you try and do that. You have to be careful about any repositioning, and it's better if you get it right the first time. But these afford me a little bit of wiggle room, which is kind of fun. I am running out of another glue stick. And I knew that was a possibility by how light it was. So, on to the next one. When COVID struck, I said to Kim, we should order some glue sticks so that I can do this collage course. And she said, yeah, probably don't need to order very many though, because you're not buying them for the whole class or anything. And so we ordered like 3, and I was done with it in like 2 weeks. So we had to order more, which is pretty funny. So the second time I ordered, was it a dozen or more than a dozen? So I'm not running out every 3 minutes now. Yeah, aren't they amazing, Ricky? The original thinking when I thought of this was that I'd use them, and then I could pitch them and get my studio tidy. And if you can see what my studio looks like, it's a disaster. But yeah, I probably won't be able to throw them out because they're too beautiful. So I'll have to just do a whole bunch of collages with them. So Ruth asks, if something is not working in a piece that you're working on, how do you figure out what is not working? That's the $10,000 question, or how $64,000 or whatever. But I'll give you a few pointers. It helps to have a bunch of ideas as far as what works compositionally. For instance, one thing that really, there are a whole bunch of things that could be at play, but there's one that I've ingrained into my thinking from one of my design teachers. He said, if it's not working, make the big stuff bigger and the small stuff smaller, because we often tend to make things too similarly sized. And so this doesn't solve every design art problem, but you'd be surprised how often it does. And you look at it with that as your lens, and you think, oh, okay, right. These two shapes are very similarly sized, and they're sort of fighting with each other, where if one is big and definitely dominant and the other one becomes smaller and definitely secondary, and you have to make your decision which is which, suddenly there's a bit more hierarchy, there's a sort of prioritizing, and there's more interest in it. Kim and I talk in our courses endlessly about contrast. And we don't mean just like light and dark contrast. That's what most people think of with contrast. But we notice things by contrast. So you can look at your piece and say, okay, has it got too many browns? Has it got too many jagged bits? Has it got too many small bits? And whatever it's got too many of, it's just like, okay, well, if it got too many small bits, it needs something big, right? If it's got too much chaos, it needs some sort of structure. If it's got too much of one color, it may need a shot of an opposite, like a complement. If it's too dark overall, it may need a shot of light. If it's too murky, it may need some clarity. So just looking at what's there and thinking about what the opposite is, and maybe introducing that. So that is a lens that can be very useful just to troubleshoot. And it always, there's no one answer for any one piece, right? So there's no one answer across the board, and there's no one answer for any one piece. You can look at one piece and show it to 10 artists, and they'll each give you a different idea, and maybe all 10 of them are valid. So it's which is what is paradoxical and wonderful about art, right? Is that there's no one solution. So yeah, and so just deciding, if you look at the piece, Ruth, and you say, you do a little mental inventory, or even go so far as to write down the things that you notice in the piece, and then think about what would contrast with those. You may find like, oh, it's actually got way too much contrast, in which case, like, maybe it's got like just way too much going on, so maybe it needs calming down, right? So if it's got so much going on that it's driving you crazy to look at, oh, okay, well, what if I paste something calm over this area, and over this area as well, so that we still have busyness, but I've introduced some calm into it. That's another way of going about it. So without seeing the piece and without knowing your intentions, I can't speak absolutely to it, but it's good to have some ways of thinking about it to sort of frame it to yourself. I think knowing, as a designer, former designer, a design-informed artist, let's put it that way. I am a big fan of like knowing how color works, so, and knowing how composition works. And I think those two things will give you, like, if you take a design course or two, or take a color course or two, and know how color relates to it, and how shape and pattern and all of those design type compositional principles work, that gives you a much expanded toolbox to sort of troubleshoot what might be wrong with any given piece. There's Kim studied not carpentry, wrong phrase, wrong term, cabinet making, and the guys, and they were mostly guys, there were tiny number of women and a lot of guys when she was studying it anyway. They had this saying that was, if all you have is a hammer, everything looks like a nail. And that is what is often wrong with us. We only have so many tools with which to figure out a solution. So if the only tools you have as an artist are complementary color contrast and value contrast, then you're going to reach for those all the time to try and solve problems that may need like a geometric versus organic, or a scale change, or a texture change, or so on. So the more you know, the more different tools you can reach for. You can reach for the value hammer every once in a while, but you might also reach for the texture contrast screwdriver, or the, etc. I'm not going to go far with that because I'm going to run out of metaphors. This one's actually on black paper. So that's the background. But the foreground is this lovely iridescent sort of really, really dark blue-green. Like when it catches the light, it's light, but it's actually more like that. So it's this really, it's kind of got like subtle bling, which is so lovely. This morning, before the rain started pouring down, I was sitting on my patio having breakfast and then having my coffee in our sort of wilderness, except for the patio. And I was enjoying taking a look at all the collages you guys have been posting and commenting, and I'm still not caught up. I thought I needed to start earlier than this morning. But so much beautiful stuff, guys, and beautiful and thought-provoking and challenging, just the whole range, and it's amazing to see. So it's been a real delight having all your collages to look at and take in. And I'm so glad I did this, because lots of people said, oh, it's so generous, and it does come from a place of generosity, but it also comes from what I need. I crave community. I crave other like-minded artists to share our striving with. So every time I go on that page, sometimes I'm too exhausted to do it, but every time I go there, I am awed by what you guys come up with. Oh, oh, no. All right. I thought I found another bit of green. Okay. So, in fact, Ruth was asking about contrast. And this is actually kind of an interesting thing to contemplate. So I started off with that dark blue background, and I went looking for Helen's green dendritic pieces, and with an eye towards making them not very contrasty. Now, this one's got some very light greens, so it pops a bit more. And this one has a bit of red violet in it. But I thought, and they're all very organic, so they have a bunch of things in common. And I tried to go sort of lighter, a bit darker as we go up. And so what I've done is created a base layer. And so it's not done, and it in my mind, I would never imagined it would be done at this stage. But I thought I'm going to start with this sort of relatively low contrast. The colors are mostly analogous. There's not a ton of value contrast, and they're all organic. So now, with that laid down, I'm going to now look for what might contrast with that. So I have a few things in mind: geometric versus organic, and these are largely horizontal. So I'm going to probably think about some things that are more vertical and some things that are more contrasting color. So lighter and maybe warm colors rather than cool colors. So whether that's exactly what I'll do or not, I'm not sure yet because I haven't got there, but that shows you how I'm thinking, like create a sort of a certain degree of harmony with this background, this ground, and then think, okay, what contrasts with it? So, oh, cool. Yeah. Thanks, Ruth. Good. Yeah. Annie's saying, me too. So much variety and great works. It is. It's wonderful to see. So, yeah. And everyone's really supportive. And that's something else that I really, I try and foster, but you guys do it naturally, right? You see interesting things in other people's work and comment and support each other. And it's great. I love it. I do love it. So, what I'm doing now, as per what we were talking about, is I'm looking for some lighter colored pieces, and generally speaking anyway, warmer colors. Oranges, yellows. I don't see much in the way of like super zingy pink. There's, and of course, make a liar of me, there's some. And the little piece of cheese, that's kind of fun. Now, a lot of her pieces are organic, which is kind of fun. Another thing that's really good about sort of learning what to put where, that I think collage, I've mentioned many a time before, but collage is great for teaching you how things play together, because you can lay something on and then take it off, or you can reposition it, see, oh, should it be higher? Should it be lower? For instance, here is a piece that I think I showed you earlier, that one. And I'm just laying that on, and it's definitely contrasting in colors. It's lots of warm colors, but it has lots of organic type shapes, and not, from my mind, I'm a bit of a contrast junkie, not enough value contrast. Whereas something that was lighter than that, like these guys, are more noticeable. Now, they don't have as much color activity, so I'm gonna see where we go. Huh. I just love the fact that every time I flip it over, it's got a surprise on the other side. It's so much fun. I found a shot of lime green that I thought, oh, maybe that's like a transition from the foreground to the background because it's green. But I don't think it's sitting in there the way I would hope. So it may not find its way in. That's all right. There's lots else to see and use here. Huh. Just so much interesting stuff. This piece here is out of just like plain brown craft type paper, and it's glued together from a few different sheets. I think she was just trying to figure out a structure before she used it on a painted paper. So it's got flaps that would have been glued, and it opens up. It's been made, you can see it's been glued together out of more than one piece. So that's like a structural first attempt at something, figuring out some sort of pop-up mechanism. She has taught courses in it before, and I've thought, oh, that would be so cool to learn how to make the structures that would do pop-ups, because they're amazingly, they can be amazingly intricate and clever. But haven't managed it yet. So I am noticing that she has a lot of organic shapes and not so many geometric shapes. So I might cut some of her papers into some geometric shapes just to give that a whirl. Like that one, for instance. How tall is this? Not quite as tall as my sheet. Okay. Sorry to be humping to myself. I'm just thinking through what I might use and how. Oh, some of these colors are so delicious. Oh, I'm glad that helped, Joy. Sorry, you probably commented that for a little while ago, but I'm just checking in. And Jane says, Cal, I think I'm throwing out all the design rules. Literally pulled stuff from the garbage, ripped it up, maybe cut and making myself use whatever my eyes land on. It's a hodgepodge, but fun. And design is good to have in mind, and then sometimes it's good to really ignore. Because it isn't like principles only take you so far. Sometimes what's more important is an emotional connection, a narrative. Design is probably, my sliders for design and color are high because of the nature of my training, but maybe a little lower and need a little bit of more development are my sort of narrative and emotional aspects. So we all have our strengths and weaknesses, or things that interest us more than others. And if we were all the same, it would be boring. Maybe that's a separate idea, though. Sometimes when you get started, you get too many ideas going into the same piece. And it's time to look at them as a separate idea. And perhaps that is the case here as well. Let's check in with you guys. How are you doing here? Oh, Annie, that's funny. How many do you have? Can you afford to cut one of them? Because I bet you if you have several, you could probably at least do one. Maybe take it apart first, make it flat, and then cut something out of it. Maybe cut cut the currency sign for Chinese currency. I don't know. Ricky says, and sometimes we switch back and forth from emotional connection, narrative connection, and design connection, depending on the prompt. Absolutely. Are there other ways to connect? So one of the reasons I give you varied prompts is because regardless of your predilections, it can be useful to start in different ways. And sometimes if you're sort of more of a design person, then having a design-oriented prompt is great. And sometimes if you're more of an emotional person, having an emotional prompt is great. But the fact is, most art has a whole bunch of things going on. Even the simplest ones have those things. Obviously, certain non-objective, which is to say pure abstract, the narrative may not be as cut and dried as a picture of hunter returning with game and heading back home, something that is obviously a particular narrative. But sometimes there's a story in that too. It might be a story, a more emotional story, or a more, sometimes artists express it very differently, they use non-objective painting or non-objective artwork to express emotions or stories that they can't use imagery for. So, and that is an area that I am maybe less perfect to speak to. Yeah, Annie, if you have more than 15, you can definitely cut one up. Yeah, I'm just trying to think a little bit more towards Ricky's question. If there are certain things that if a particular narrative needs something to reinforce it, it's good to have some design or some color ideas that support it. But oftentimes we intuit those too. So, for instance, the ones I was just looking at this morning of yours, Ricky, the Memento Mori ones with the skull intercut with the live faces and the bling, right? You realize that this is a very strong contrast, right? Life and death, and similarity too, right? So you're saying, they're opposites in one respect, but they're both are reality, right? So I think the fact that you slice them horizontally, you didn't make it a convoluted cut, right? That was an intuition that these ideas are strong enough that they don't need what a friend of mine used to call gilding the lily, right? You have a strong idea, it can get by on a simpler expression of it. So, and that is one way of going about it. And then you could challenge yourself. You could say, I'm going to take that same idea, and now I'm going to do one that is, instead of using like 5 different pieces of collage, I'm going to do one that uses 105 and see how I can make it work, or if I can make it work. How does it change it, right? Oftentimes we start with one thing and then like, oh, this is really interesting. So how can I evolve it? Oh, it'd be kind of interesting if I did this. And you already started that with a collage, second collage, right? You put a little bit more jewelry on, right? Which sort of talks about the sort of limits and folly of material wealth when we're going to die anyway. So that's an interesting evolution. But if you said that prompt was really interesting, so follow it further, like take it further, try more convoluted, simpler versions, color versions, black and white versions, etc. So I'm going to hold, I started to put these pieces outside of this one. I thought, oh, maybe make the shapes have a little fringe along the bottom of something else going on. And I looked at at those, and I thought maybe they are their own idea. So I'm going to see whether they are. And this is another great thing about collage, right? I can try them. I need a little more light on me, don't I? Maybe they need to be on this piece. Get that in. There we go. And view a little better. But then if not, I can always flop them back into this one. I'm going to get a second one started and see where we go. What? Maybe not 6. Maybe 6 by 4. That's fun. Cal's talking to himself again. I want to find that little, I want to lose that little piece of oval cheese that I was very, very much enjoying. I think it might be going to be in this one. I don't want to lose it. It may be too late. No, there it is. Okay. Keep that with that one while I play with this one. So it's loose, so I can't tilt it up entirely, but I'm enjoying the fact that this one has this activation top and bottom, but a sort of a very quiet, like dead quiet in this case. I may activate it somewhat. Central area that we sort of weep back and forth across. So I'm going to start with that and then see where that goes. So glue down the black piece. And then see where the other pieces go. Well, I know where they're going to go, but how do I relate them to whatever else ends up in the collage? So is anyone doing any sort of traveling at all, sort of careful traveling, like, or local getaways? Are you going to your cottage if you have one? Are you getting some of that in these days? Because obviously things like planes and so on aren't happening so much, but planes and buses and so on. But if you have a car and can get away to somewhere where there aren't too many people, sorry. Are you doing that? Have you done that? Kim and I haven't yet, but I think first thing on the agenda for us will be a little bit of camping, because we are a little bit stir crazy these days, cabin fevered. We've done remarkably well, I think, but we are starting to lose it a little bit. I have to say our patio has been a godsend, as long as it hasn't been too hot to go out there and sit. I did some yoga outside today, which was really a nice thing. It's just such a treat working with someone else's scraps that are so. Kim said she found research that showed that that the areas of our brain that are about novelty, so in other words, new experiences, new things, is very related to creativity, and it's always interesting when you find out that in fact that thing you've intuited for so long is actually true. Like that, artists, I mean, there are always exceptions, but Kim and I noticed that we're novelty junkies, right? So it gets my imagination fired up when I discover something new. And, it's like when you go to the gallery and you discover a new artist, or in whatever way, discover some new creative person, or just in something new that fascinates you, and then it starts finding its way into your work. That's exactly what working with Helen's papers feels like to me. I didn't make them, but I'm getting to discover them. Oh, so Francoise says that he went to Collingwood. Yeah, I have a student friend in Collingwood. We should go visit her. Collingwood's lovely. Yeah, it's a nice place to go. And I didn't know that Mexico's doing badly from COVID. I presume what you're saying, Francoise. That's sad. That's not good to hear. Joy, local walks and discovering new trails. Yes, absolutely. And Joy, you have some relatively nearby nature, I presume, on Salt Spring, right? So that's a really good thing. Oh, and you have family there too, Ricky. That's not good. Yeah. Yeah, Montreal is like any other year. I would love. Montreal is so great. We have some friends there, and I adore Montreal. It's always such a different. It feels so different and wonderful being there, and being somewhere where you can get around by transit, and it's so green, and the mountain. I love the mountain. Um, oh. Francoise has a newly born grandchild in Mexico City. Oh, that's heartbreaking, and he can't go. Yes. Oh, it's hard, this. My niece just bought her first house in Hamilton, and she moved in like 2 days ago, and her parents are helping her get settled in and paint and so on. And that would be normally the kind of thing that I would be there for. And but since we're being more cautious than some or most, that's something that we haven't yet decided we're comfortable doing, unfortunately. But I've seen some pictures, and it's lovely. Lovely that way. Yeah, I don't know that you can time the lower COVID times, can you, Annie? I mean, I guess you can, but then it can change quickly, right? Because as soon as there's an outbreak somewhere, then it can go from one to the next or one to the other fairly quickly, alarmingly quickly. So, um, Joy and Salt Spring says today is BC Day, Bending the Curve Day. Now, is BC Day kind of like your? I mean, that bending the curve aside, is it a sort of a provincial holiday like Simcoe Day is here? I presume. So it's a holiday for you as well. So I've made this piece so far that's got the sort of two extremes with the space between them, and now I'm contemplating that space. In one sense, it sort of makes the piece to push the interest top and bottom. But then there is always the question of, okay, but do you put anything in it, or does anything you put in it ruin it? Do you put in very low contrast things? I have to say, this piece that I held up earlier, and I just laid that on there, and I think, oh, wow, like that's done. Or maybe it's that way with the yellow a little further down, and that maybe that is done. I'm not sure. That's definitely one option. I'm going to look for some very low contrast pieces and see whether that is a better option or not. And maybe it'll be interesting. Let's see. I do know I want, I think I know. I shouldn't say it with such conviction because I'm not convinced yet. But I have this suspicion, let's put it that way, that something low contrast in the center might be interesting. But whether or not it's going to be what I've got here or not, I don't know. That's kind of interesting, that piece there with all the black already in it. That's great, but I think it's too active. Why, thank you, Jane. I, as always, time gets away on me. So, yes, it is a joy. It is a civic holiday, and thank you, Jane. Yes, it is 3:30, so I am going to probably do a few more minutes and then wrap it up. But if you need to, if you have to leave now, thank you so much for joining us. I was sure it was getting along, but that it's made it to 3:30 already really does surprise me. So I'm going to show you a couple of possibilities for things I've thought about. So I have this one, and there's something interesting about the black rectangle within these three bands of interesting things happening across. And then this one sort of got busiest down here. This one's busiest up here. And then this one sort of has busyness going across it. So that's one option. I also find this kind of, I don't know whether this is it exactly, but I find, it's actually the other side. This is fascinating because in the center, this means that we've got like this very high contrast black and white stuff, but it's out at the edges where the color is. So that's kind of fun. It might be too much. I don't know. So I'm going to think about that. On this one, this may or may not stay this way, but I really like this little sort of oval cheese piece that I found, and setting it over top of this sort of reddish oval piece with a little bit of an offset. See if I can hold it there enough that you can actually see what I'm thinking. That's kind of fun. It definitely becomes a major focal point if that were to be all I did. And it might be. That's sort of the dissonant thing, the thing with the most detail, strongest color value contrast. But we'll see. Yeah, time does fly, Joy. It's true. And thank you so much for saying that. Yes, I hope that that the Collage Jam has helped you guys get through COVID. I think back to when we started, and I remember just being so anxious because we didn't know what it looked like. I remember like the first week or two of lockdown, it's like I'd never experienced anything like this before, and now we're sort of, it's our new normal. And I was watching a movie with a crowd scene yesterday, and it was like, remember that, and so yeah, it's been quite the arc, and I've been really glad to have you guys along to help me through and help you through. And good times, bad times, I think this is something we're gonna continue indefinitely, because it's just so rewarding and so much fun. And so I look forward to seeing what you guys do with one person's. I keep saying one man's because that's the phrase, but I intentionally want it to be non-gendered. So one person's trash. I'm looking forward to seeing what you guys do with that. And Jane likes the first option on the first one. Yeah, I think I do too, Jane. I think I'm inclined to that one. There's something about the black setting off these 3 bars. So it may, I'm kind of suspicious of the fact that it's so easy, but maybe I shouldn't be. If I were in the instructor's role and a student were saying that, I'd say, just go with it. So I should listen to my own advice. You're very welcome, Francoise. It's been lovely. It's lovely having so many regulars along like yourself and so many of you guys. Thank you, Mira. Yes, and I will pass. Kim sends her regrets. She always enjoys doing it, but she's got to save her. Today she needed to save her mental bandwidth for her other projects. So be sure to tune in if you're interested to Arts Etobicoke on Instagram at 2:00 tomorrow to catch her live stream. And Annie, yes, thank you so much. Yes, we will have a good vacation. I think Kim mentioned on her studio party on Saturday that we're going to do a little unplugging and powering down for the first little while, but we have a list as long as our arm of both artists and teaching things that we need to do. So first, a little bit of chilling, and probably go camping somewhere where we can just stare into space and see nature for a little while. And then, yeah, we have to put the hammer down on some of our own work, some preparations for fall, and so on. So yeah. Thank you, Kathleen. It's yeah, we will definitely enjoy ourselves, and we've enjoyed doing this so very much. And Jane, oh, you're very welcome. Thank you. Yeah, we'll see you in the fall, if not sooner. And Ricky, thank you so much for joining us for all of these. It's been a pleasure having you along. So I guess that is it. I will figure out what I'm going to do with these, and I'll post a few of these, post these and a few of the from past weeks that I'll finish up in the next few days to the jam, and then we'll reconvene in September. Okay. Thank you so much. Take care of yourself, take care of your loved ones, and stay safe. And we'll see you in September.